Welcome back to the Bourbon Retriever. My name is Chris, and today we are reviewing the latest release from 13th Colony, their first ever cask strength batch rye product. But is this a bottle that you should go out and hunt? Let's find out. 13th Colony is a small distillery down in Georgia, about a good 2 hours drive south of Atlanta. I actually went there to pick up a lottery bottle. I'll leave a link to the video up top if you want to go check that out. But they're most well known for their double oaks that they release every fall. Now, those are double oak bourbons. And last year, they also did a cask strength batch bourbon product, but they have finally released a cask strength batch rye product. They do have a single barrel picks of ryes, and they do have their flagship. I want to say it's a 95 proof rye, but this is the first time they've done a cask strength version of it. This rye is coming in at 120.7 proof, and it is a 95.5 rye mash bill coming from Indiana, which means that this is MGP juice. However, they do add French oak spirals to this to help it give a more balanced flavor. And if you can just look at the color of this, just how much darker this is. I'm not sure if that's coming through in the camera. I'll definitely do a look when we pour in the glass to see maybe you can get a little better look there, but this is very dark. Not as dark as the double oaks, like those are like motor oil dark. This is much more like, it feels more of a natural coloring to a rye whiskey. Like if I'm looking at this, I would guess it's much closer to like a double digit, maybe like a 12-year-old rye. This is a batch product that is 4 to 6 years old. Now, this is a limited release from them. It's coming out in August sometime, and it's going to be, I think they said the MSRP is like somewhere between like $80 to $90 on it. It's kind of like where they're suggesting the MSRP is on it. They didn't release a bottle count for this, though. They did say that they pulled 80 barrels for this, and I'm guessing at 80 barrels at like a 4 to 6 year old product, maybe like 150 bottles a barrel. So if you kind of do that math out, we're looking at like around 12,000 bottles for this, if that kind of math checks out. So with it being 12,000 bottles, it should be, I think, not an easy bottle to get, but relative to some like very limited allocated bottles, that should be relatively easier to get. It's going to be in their current distribution system plus 2 online retailers, Sealbox and Bourbon Outfitters is where you'll be able to find this bottle. Now, before we jump into the review of this bottle, if you're enjoying this content, hit the subscribe button. That way you do not miss any future videos that I post. I got some good content coming out, a hunting video of Italy, Massachusetts, a couple other reviews. In addition, if you're looking for ways to support the channel, check out my Patreon. I'm going to leave a QR code, or at least I'm going to attempt to leave a QR code here for you guys to scan it and go check it out. I got a couple other barrel picks up there that are currently available. A 1792 full proof, Old Forester barrel proof, and a Penelope X bottle. If that's something you're interested in, definitely go and check that out. But with that, let's go ahead and jump into the review. Yeah, I don't know why sometimes these can be a little difficult to get out, but hopefully it is well worth it. Cheers. Okay, right off the bat, there is a deep, rich, dark fruit notes to this that what I look for in well-aged whiskey. I'm surprised that this is a 4 to 6 year old product. This is smelling much older than that. Like we talked about the color earlier, you can just look at it and it is so dark. And the aroma on it, it smells like a much older whiskey. I would never guess 4 to 6 year old smelling this whiskey, but you can definitely tell that it is still a rye. There's a nice rye spice in the background of that sweet jam note that you're getting. A lot of oak note in there too, a very sweet oak, maybe a little bit of a cola note too. This is a really well aroma for a rye. I'm really digging this. Like right off the bat, the aroma, this probably is my favorite rye of the year so far. I'm trying to think like what else this would compete with, but this is really right up my alley for a rye, especially for a person that is not a rye fan. So let's jump into the palate and see if it transitions. Yeah, that rich sweetness just punches you right in the face. Very full flavored. This whiskey lets you know it's there. It's not subtle, not something you have to go out looking for, but that's a nice rich sweetness on the front. Transitions into that baking spice, rye spice you get in the middle. And then this just has a finish for days, like a very long, good finish. After drinking this a couple more times, I think the fruit I'm getting is like a cherry that is maybe drizzled in like caramel, like a light caramel, because there's that just rich like fruit sweetness is the predominant sweetness I'm getting. But as it goes towards the middle palate, it turns into more of like a candied sweetness, not like a Jolly Rancher, like nothing like artificial sweetness, but more of like a richer kind of syrup sweetness. And then right when it reaches that peak of that sweetness is when that baking spice starts coming into it as it gets kind of further back on your palate. And it is just a very vibrant rye. Now you can definitely tell that this is a rye with that spice in the back. But what I like about it is the sweetness kind of carries through with that spice. What I don't like about rye is where it's just very grain forward, baking spice, and there really isn't a lot else going on with it. This one checks all the boxes for me because it has that sweetness with the spice. I think if you are someone who doesn't like ryes, this is probably one to consider. I'm not going to say that this is going to be right up your alley because there's definitely a lot of spice in there. Like it isn't like a Jack Daniel's barrel proof rye where you can almost convince yourself it's not a rye. Like you definitely know that this is a rye, but there's so much sweetness with this that is not in a typical rye, especially for a 95.5 rye. This is probably the sweetest, more balanced 95.5 that I have probably ever had. So I definitely, this is one to consider if you aren't a rye fan. Like probably the closest thing, I'm trying to think what I could compare this to. You have like the Sagamore Double Oak. That's probably the most famous double oaked MGP out there. But to me, that's a little too tannic on the double oak. And I think this is a much better product than that Sagamore Double Oak, which is probably travesty or heresy to say because I'm from the DMV area. But I think this is a better product than that Sagamore Double Oak. And the reason I think it is a much better drink is because it's more balanced. It has that fruit note, which I think the Sagamore Double Oak lacks. That really has spice and oak without the fruit sweetness, whereas this is knocking all the box with the oak, with the sweetness, with the spice. I think it really is, again, just checking all the boxes. Now, before we get into my final review of this, we're going to jump to the sponsor of today's video. I don't know about you guys, but where I am right now, it is unbearably hot outside right now. And when it is that hot, it is unpleasant to be drinking bourbon neat. And I personally prefer to drink it on the rocks or in a nice refreshing cocktail when I'm outside in this temperature. And that is where our sponsor of today's video comes in, ECozy, with their brand new Sphere Ice Maker. And their newest model includes a blue light on the inside. That way you're able to check the progress of your ice without having to open the door and affect the temperature on the inside. And ECozy's ice making machines are as fast as they come. We're getting 4 ice cubes in 35 minutes. It makes up to 144 ice cubes in a day, and the basket holds up to 56 ice cubes. So if you're having a big, large gathering, this is the perfect machine for that. Now to get the clearest ice spheres, you're gonna wanna use distilled or boiling water. They actually include a pin that you can put into your water to test the quality of your water. I soon found out my tap water is not the purest, so I went and bought distilled water, and it made a massive difference in the quality of the ice sphere. So before I got the ECozy machine, I used this silicone mold that I got off Amazon, I think for like maybe $20, but I just wanted to show you the difference. I used the same water in both. They were both distilled water I bought from the store, but the cloudiness difference is, in my opinion, pretty drastic. I didn't think it actually would be this drastic. I don't know if it's gonna pick it up on the camera here, so I'm gonna do a close-up, but the left here is the ECozy and the right is the mold. I'm also gonna pour a little bit of Wild Turkey 101, my favorite drink to put on the rocks, in these glasses to show you how much slower the ECozy ice melts compared to the mold 2. And you want a slower melting ice cube because that means you can enjoy your drink longer without having to worry about the ice water diluting your whiskey. And if for some reason you're unhappy with your machine, ECozy offers a 30-day return policy. And for you guys in the community, they have provided us a discount code. It will be in the description below. So these sponsorships go a long way in helping a channel grow. So if this ice machine is something that you're interested in, definitely go check them out and support the people that are helping support the channel. So now, should you go out and try and punt this bottle down? Should it be a bar pour or just another bottle to pass because it is an MGP rye, 95 rye? There's a lot of those out there. My personal opinion is this is a must buy and even potentially a backup buy. This is probably one of my favorite ryes that I have ever had. Especially for $80 to $90, I think this is an absolute steal. Now, if you look at the specs, it's a 4 to 6 year rye, and it's finished. So you should think about a little lower than that. But for what I'm tasting out of this, it's actually knocking out of the park for $80 or $90. I've had many ryes that are much more expensive and don't hold a candle to this. Like this, to me, beats the BTAC ryes, like Handy, I haven't had Saz 18, but this definitely beats the handy version of the rye. And this is my front runner for best rye of the year so far, which is pretty incredible to say considering the point in the year that we're in, that this would be my favorite rye so far. And I do think this competes with many of the bourbons I've had. Right now, this definitely is my top 10 of the year. I'm not sure where it would compete, maybe the top five. Top five is pretty tough, but this is for so far, especially for rye, this is definitely in my top 10 best whiskeys I've had this year. So if you live in one of the states that's distributed, definitely talk to your local retailer and see if you can snag this one. And if you don't, check out Sealbox and Bourbon Outfitters and set an alarm for whenever those are going to be released because you're definitely going to want to pick one up when those hit those line. But if you're enjoying this content before you get out, hit the subscribe button. That way you don't miss any future videos. And check out this video here. And until next time, cheers.